Welcome to another deep dive. You've sent us some really interesting excerpts from NVIDIA's latest SEC filings.
Oh, yeah.
And we're excited to see what we can uncover.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
It looks like this deep dive is going to be a wild ride through their financials, the challenges they're facing in the market, and even some global politics that could affect their future.
It's fascinating, how NVIDIA has achieved such incredible success.
Right.
But at the same time, they're tied into this complex web of global dependencies and vulnerabilities.
Exactly. We all know NVIDIA is a leader in the GPU market. Their technology is behind everything from the amazing graphics in our favorite games to the algorithms powering the advancement of AI. But there's a catch, a vulnerability that's worth exploring.
Okay.
NVIDIA relies heavily on third-party manufacturers, and a lot of those manufacturers are located in the Asia-Pacific region.
That's a key insight here. They generated 56% of their revenue for fiscal year 2024 from sales outside the U.S., making them susceptible to global shifts and potential disruptions.
Right.
For instance, remember the recent U.S. government restrictions on exporting high-performance AI chips, like the A100 and H100 to China?
Those restrictions were a big deal. We saw NVIDIA's data center revenue in China fall from 19% in fiscal year 2023 to just 14% in fiscal year 2024.
And it's projected to keep declining.
Really?
Potentially hitting the mid-single-digit percentages by the end of this year.
Wow. What's really interesting is the strategic importance of AI in all of this. It's not just about selling chips. It's about who leads in a technology that is changing the world as we know it.
Exactly.
These export controls are about more than just chips.
Right.
They reflect national security concerns and a desire to maintain technological dominance.
Definitely.
This adds a whole new layer of uncertainty to NVIDIA's future, doesn't it? What if those restrictions get even tighter?
Right.
Could they be completely cut off from a market as massive as China?
It's definitely a risk, especially considering how much of NVIDIA's supply chain is concentrated in the Asia-Pacific region.
Yeah.
Their filings even specifically mention Taiwan.
Oh, wow.
Which brings its own set of geopolitical concerns.
It's not just hypothetical either. Remember a few years back when you couldn't find a graphics card anywhere?
Oh, yeah.
That shortage was partly due to supply chain disruptions. If something were to happen in Taiwan, that could disrupt the flow of those high-end GPUs you're waiting for.
It underscores how interconnected our world is and how global events can directly impact the things we use every day. Speaking of disruptions, NVIDIA has also been pretty open about the challenges they face when trying to accurately predict customer demand.
Yeah.
They've even ended up with both shortages and excess inventory at times.
I bet.
Which has impacted their financials.
Trying to figure out how much of what product you're going to need months in advance sounds like a nightmare, especially when you're dealing with a fast-paced industry like tech. I know a lot of people were frustrated when they couldn't get the latest graphics cards because of the chip shortage.
And that's just one example. NVIDIA forecasting is made even more complex by things like the boom and bust of cryptocurrency mining.
Oh.
A few years ago, demand for their GPUs went through the roof.
Yeah.
Because they were being used to mine digital currencies like Ethereum. That kind of unpredictable demand makes planning and inventory management incredibly challenging.
So you've got geopolitical tensions influencing their sales on one hand, and then you've got these swings in demand on the other.
Yeah.
It feels like they're constantly walking a tightrope.
It's definitely a dynamic situation. And we haven't even touched on the challenges they face with product transitions and the intense competition they're up against.
You're right. They're always having to manage the transition between different product architectures while facing some pretty fierce rivals in the market.
NVIDIA has competitors like AMD and Intel constantly pushing the limits of what's possible.
Right.
Every time NVIDIA transitions to a new product architecture, they have to plan carefully to make sure it goes smoothly and doesn't cause major dips in revenue.
I can imagine customers holding off on buying the older generation products and waiting for the latest and greatest architecture to come out. What's that like for NVIDIA's sales?
It definitely creates some interesting challenges.
Yeah.
Their filings actually point to this as a potential issue.
Really?
Customers will sometimes strategically delay their purchases to wait for the new technology.
Wow.
Which adds yet another layer of complexity to forecasting.
That's a tough balancing act for them, trying to stay ahead of the curve while also keeping up with existing product lines and customer expectations.
What's really interesting, though, is how NVIDIA is tackling these challenges by diversifying their offerings.
Okay.
They're not just a hardware company anymore. They've made a strategic move into software and cloud services, with offerings like NVIDIA DGX Cloud and AI Foundations.
That seems like a smart move. It's like they're hedging their bets by expanding into different areas and creating new revenue streams beyond just hardware. But I bet that software and cloud push requires some serious investment in partnerships, right?
Absolutely. They've entered into multi-year cloud service agreements to support these new offerings.
Wow.
It shows how committed they are to building a strong presence in these new markets.
It reminds us that even a tech giant like NVIDIA has to adapt and innovate to stay ahead of the game.
And speaking of adapting to a changing landscape, there's another intriguing detail we need to unpack into this.
Yeah.
One customer referred to in the filings as Customer A accounted for a whopping 13% of NVIDIA's total revenue in fiscal year 2024.
Wait, hold on. One customer contributed that much to their overall revenue.
It's definitely an eye-opening insight.
That's a huge portion of their business.
It underscores the potential risks and benefits of having such a concentrated customer base.
I'm already trying to guess who this mysterious customer A could be. Do they give us any hints?
The filings keep their identity under wraps. But they do tell us that this customer is primarily associated with their compute and networking segment.
So we know it's likely a major player in the data center or AI space. But wait, there's more, right?
Yes.
You mentioned something about an unnamed indirect customer.
Yes. This one is even more intriguing. There's an unnamed indirect customer purchasing through distributors like Customer A, who is estimated to have contributed a staggering 19% of NVIDIA's revenue.
Wow, that's even more than Customer A.
It highlights the importance of these partnerships.
Right.
And how much NVIDIA relies on maintaining strong relationships with these key customers.
Yeah.
But relying so heavily on a small number of customers also comes with certain risks.
It does make you wonder what would happen if one of those major customers decided to switch suppliers.
Right.
Or cut back on their purchases. It seems risky to have so many eggs in one basket.
It's a valid concern. The loss of a major customer could have a substantial impact on NVIDIA's revenue and profitability.
It's fascinating how NVIDIA's success is built on this balancing act of innovation partnerships and navigating this complex global landscape.
It's a high-stakes game.
Yeah.
And these filings provide a glimpse into the decisions and challenges they face. It's certainly not for the faint of heart.
It sounds like there's a lot more to uncover. What's next on our deep dive agenda?
We've explored the complexities of their supply chain, their dependence on specific customers, and the strategic shift towards software and cloud services.
Yeah.
Next, let's delve into a different kind of challenge: the legal and regulatory landscape that NVIDIA has to navigate.
Okay. This is where things could get interesting. We're talking about laws, regulations, compliance, the kind of stuff that doesn't usually make headlines.
You might be surprised. It's actually more captivating than you'd think.
Okay.
This isn't just about legalese. It's about understanding the forces that shape how NVIDIA can operate and what challenges they might face in the future.
All right, I'm intrigued. Let's dive in. We just dove deep into some of the geopolitical and market challenges NVIDIA faces, and now we're about to enter the world of laws and regulations. It's not always the most glamorous topic, but it's important to understand how this impacts a company like NVIDIA.
You're right. It might not be as flashy as a new GPU launch, but the legal and regulatory landscape plays a huge role in shaping NVIDIA's operations and their future.
So what are some of the key things they have to deal with in this area?
Well, think about the sensitive areas their technology touches: data privacy, cybersecurity, even potential antitrust concerns. These are all areas that regulators around the world are scrutinizing.
That makes sense. With their influence, particularly in AI, it's understandable that regulators would want to take a closer look at their practices.
The filings actually give us a specific example. The French Competition Authority has been looking into NVIDIA's role in both the graphics card market and the cloud service provider market.
Wow. So even across the pond, they're dealing with regulatory pressure. What does this mean for them?
It's a sign of the times, really. AI technology is under increasing scrutiny from governments as they grapple with how to manage this powerful technology and ensure fair competition.
So it's not just about competing with other companies, it's also about navigating this constantly evolving regulatory landscape.
Exactly. And that landscape is always changing. New laws and regulations are popping up all the time, especially as AI gets more sophisticated and we see its impact on society grow.
It's a good reminder that even a company at the forefront of innovation like NVIDIA has to contend with external factors that could significantly affect their growth.
It's a delicate dance. finding the right balance between pushing the boundaries of technology and ensuring compliance with these ever-changing rules and expectations.
It sounds like navigating those legal and regulatory waters can be a real minefield.
It's definitely complex, but for NVIDIA, being able to navigate that complexity successfully is crucial if they want to stay a leader in the tech world.
Okay, so we've talked about geopolitical tensions, the roller coaster of supply and demand, the intense competition they face. And now this web of legal and regulatory challenges. It feels like we've painted a picture of a company facing pressure from all sides.
It's true. They operate in a very dynamic and demanding environment. Yeah. But let's not forget about the incredible success they've achieved.
That's right. They're still pulling in some impressive numbers. Let's switch gears and dive into their financials. What are the key takeaways we should know about their performance?
If I had to sum it up in one word, it would be growth. Their revenue in fiscal year 2024 was $60.92 billion, which is a huge jump from the $26.97 billion they brought in the year before.
Wow, that's more than double. That's some serious growth. Where's the bulk of that coming from?
The star performer has been their data center segment, which is fueled by the growing demand for their high-performance computing products. It's a clear indication of the increasing importance of AI and the role NVIDIA's technology is playing in driving those advancements.
So while they're facing headwinds in some areas, the data center market seems to be their sweet spot right now.
It's definitely a key driver of their success, but it's also important to keep in mind that this is a very competitive market. There are other major players who are also vying for a piece of that pie.
It's a reminder that even when things are going well, there's no time to sit back and relax in the world of tech.
Exactly. Continuous innovation and making smart strategic decisions are essential for staying ahead in this fast-paced game.
Okay, so we've got a company with huge growth potential, but they're also dealing with some serious challenges. This deep dive has been quite the journey, exciting, informative, and maybe a little bit nerve-wracking too. So what's the final verdict? What should we be watching out for in NVIDIA's future?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Can they maintain this level of dominance as the technological landscape continues to evolve so rapidly?
With all of the geopolitical pressures and the increasing competition, it seems like they're facing an uphill battle.
It's definitely not going to be easy, but NVIDIA has a history of innovation and adaptability.
They've been pushing the boundaries of what's possible with GPUs for years, and they've shown a willingness to evolve their business model to seize new opportunities.
You're right. Their move into software and cloud services is a perfect example of that adaptability.
So while we can't predict the future with certainty, one thing is for sure, NVIDIA isn't going down without a fight.
They're a company that thrives on pushing limits and exceeding expectations. And that's what makes them so fascinating to follow.
Okay, we've covered their dominance in the GPU market, their vulnerabilities to geopolitical issues and supply chain disruptions, and their ambitious move into the world of software and cloud services. We've even uncovered some pretty interesting details about their reliance on a few key customers. So what's the last piece of the puzzle?
We've laid out all the pieces, but now the real challenge is putting them all together.
You mean understanding what this all means for the future of AI gaming and the bigger picture of the tech industry as a whole?
Exactly. We need to think about the long-term implications of what we've learned.
So this deep dive isn't just about understanding NVIDIA's business. It's about understanding the forces that are shaping the future of technology.
And that's a conversation that goes far beyond what we can cover in this episode.
So you're leaving us with a bit of a cliffhanger. You're encouraging us to think critically about everything we've absorbed and to connect it to the bigger picture.
Think about it this way. NVIDIA's success isn't solely based on their technology. It's also about their ability to navigate a complex web of global relationships, economic forces, and regulatory hurdles.
It's a reminder that innovation doesn't happen in isolation. There are so many factors that influence it, and some of them are completely outside of a company's control.
And understanding those factors is crucial for making informed decisions, whether you're an investor, a tech enthusiast, or just someone who's curious about the world around them.
Well said. This deep dive has been an amazing lesson in understanding not only the inner workings of a tech giant, but also the forces that are shaping its future.
And as we've seen, NVIDIA's story is still being written. I think the next chapter will be just as exciting and unpredictable as the ones that came before.
So what's the key takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about as they wrap up this deep dive?
That's a great question. What stands out to you? What insights have resonated the most?
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from geopolitical challenges to supply chain vulnerabilities. But there's one thing that really stuck with me, and I'm betting it's on our listeners' minds too.
You're talking about those mysterious customers, aren't you? The ones who account for such a significant portion of NVIDIA's revenue.
Exactly. Customer A at 13% and that unnamed indirect customer at a staggering 19%. It's like a puzzle we haven't quite solved.
It's certainly intriguing. Unfortunately, the filings don't reveal their identities directly. But we can use the information provided to piece together some educated guesses.
Let's play detective then. What clues do we have?
Well, we know both customers are primarily associated with NVIDIA's compute and networking segment.
So that points us towards the data center and AI space. Given their purchasing power, they have to be some pretty big players.
Precisely. We're likely talking about industry giants, maybe cloud service providers or massive tech companies with enormous computing needs.
It's fascinating to think about these relationships and how much influence they have on NVIDIA's success. It's a bit like a high-stakes poker game where we're trying to read the players based on their bets.
That's a great analogy. And the stakes are certainly high for NVIDIA. This kind of customer concentration, while beneficial in the short term, also presents a significant risk.
Right. If one of these major players shifts strategy or experiences a downturn, it could create a ripple effect that impacts NVIDIA's bottom line.
It's a delicate balance. But speaking of the bottom line, let's turn our attention to NVIDIA's overall financial performance. We touched on it earlier, but it's worth taking a closer look at the numbers.
Okay, give us the rundown. What's the financial picture for this tech powerhouse?
Their fiscal year 2024 saw a remarkable jump in revenue, soaring to $60.92 billion from $26.97 billion the previous year.
That's more than double. It seems like all those challenges we discussed haven't slowed them down.
You're right. The strong demand for their data center products, particularly driven by the AI boom, has been a key driver of this impressive growth. They're riding a powerful wave of technological advancement.
So they're bringing in the big bucks, but are they actually making a profit?
Their gross margin, a key measure of profitability, also increased significantly, reaching 72.7% in fiscal year 2024, compared to 56.9% the year before.
That's a healthy margin. But I imagine all that investment in research and development, along with managing a global operation, must also be expensive?
Absolutely. Their operating expenses have also risen considerably, driven by increased spending on compensation and benefits, especially stock-based compensation, as they've expanded their workforce.
It sounds like the classic story of a high-growth company, big revenues, strong margins, but also significant investments to maintain that momentum.
Exactly. And that's what makes their future so intriguing. Can they sustain this growth trajectory while navigating all the challenges we've discussed?
It's the question that everyone, especially investors, wants answered. They're betting on NVIDIA's ability to keep innovating and outmaneuvering the competition.
And that competition is fierce. Companies like AMD and Intel aren't standing still. They're constantly pushing the limits in the world of processors and graphics.
It's a constant race to the top, with each company striving for that next breakthrough.
And the battlefield extends beyond just hardware. Software and cloud services are becoming increasingly important, making NVIDIA's strategic moves in those areas even more critical for their long-term success.
So where do we go from here? We've explored NVIDIA's strengths and weaknesses, their wins, and the hurdles they face. What's the ultimate takeaway for our listeners?
We've given you a glimpse into the inner workings of this tech giant, highlighting the complex factors that shape its future. But the story isn't over yet. It's still being written.
It's up to each of us to connect the dots, to weigh the evidence, and draw our own conclusions.
Will NVIDIA continue to reign supreme in the world of GPUs? Will they navigate the geopolitical and regulatory minefields successfully? Can they maintain this incredible growth trajectory amidst fierce competition?
Those are tough questions with no easy answers. But the insights we've gained from their SEC filings have given us valuable clues. They offer a framework for understanding not only NVIDIA's journey, but also the forces that are shaping the entire tech industry.
This deep dive has equipped you with the knowledge to analyze, to question, and to participate in the ongoing conversation about technology's future.
That's a great way to put it. This has been an incredible journey of discovery, and I'm sure everyone listening is eager to see what the future holds for NVIDIA and how they'll continue to impact the world.
It's a story that's far from finished, and as we've learned, it's full of unexpected twists and turns. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and remember, the journey of discovery never truly ends.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into the world of NVIDIA. We hope you enjoyed this exploration and gained some valuable insights. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep exploring the fascinating world of technology.